welcome back to WorldSimSeries action, and welcome back to the Porsche Fever series as we head on to round 4 here from Poznan. We were here a week ago, less than a week ago, for the EBATC seat. Now it's time for the GT4s and the GT3 Cup cars to take to the track. It is Chrissy Nani on provisional pole at the moment. Jan Nims in the GT4s. As always, I'm joined by Lorila.
Welcome everyone, and welcome to the penultimate round of the Porsche Fever Championship. Beautiful timing here in the virtual circuit located in Poland. Beautiful views from around the track. Hopefully that promises us another very nice and competitive racing action, as we are currently still having to deal with the qualifying session. I think it's quite a nice time now to go through the overall standings, as hopefully Gustas will lead us through.
So Chrissy Nani sits at the top of the Cup Pro standing with 56 points, and it's Adam Kashoni on 51, Matas Mendelis on 49, 43 for Toras Knila, and Kolossai on 42. In the Pro-Ams, the Cup Pro-Ams, it's Bernini at the top of the field Bielgo, with 50 points, and Bielgo with 33, 28 for Galhardo, Grashis on 26, and Lapo on 22. GT4 Pro, led by Jan Nims on 75 points and 61 for Rahmanian. In GT4 Pro Am, it's Gubarevs on 75, Bailey on 43, and Lulis on 30. GT4 Am, it's Nikkanen at the top, 45 points to his name, and LaRue on 37, 26 for Marin, Lepkas on 25, and 24 Jankowska. Those are the current results of the championship coming in to round 4. With we passed midway in the season, and it's just this one and Brno left to go in this year season. Qualifying session continues, as it is still Nani at the top of the leaderboard, with Kashoni in second and Danila in third. In the Cup Pros, Cup Pro-Am, led by Dielgo, ahead of Pepkas and Ulysses, 3. GT4 Pro, well, it's a lonely affair in GT4 Pro. Jan Nims, he beats the class, but because he's the only driver in that class as well. Pro-Am, pole position, provisional pole position at the moment, goes to Gubarevs, and GT4 Am, provisional pole for Dotartas at the moment.
Yep, a pretty packed grid here this afternoon, so hopefully that promises us more drama on the racetrack later on when the qualifying session ends. But currently in the Cup Pro Plus class and in the overall standings, it's looking pretty promising for the current championship leader of the class, Nani, not only leading the standing list, but also the current qualifying session by a little bit more than 1/10 over Kajoni and Tonila. Look at the gap between Kajoni and Tonila. It's only 1/1000 of a second. Matas Mendelis has managed to put in the fastest last sector, but it's not more than enough for P4 at this moment. Tonila is back trying to fight after he missed one round while visiting the real Red Bull racing circuit. He still has some slight hopes to maybe take the crown of this championship with one missed round. It's a little bit high expectations, but you never know what happens on the racetrack, and Toros Tonila is not the man to give up. He is here to race. And by the way, he's currently 4th in the championship standings, but he has the heaviest car on the grid due to the BOP penalty system for the winners of each round. So each top 3 finishers in every class receive the weight ballast penalty. So that means Tauras Tunila has visited the podium here the most times out of the all remaining drivers. So maybe Tauras Tunila still has his chance, but it's gonna be a very important race here this afternoon, and currently he's not on the highest position, and he will have some work to do in his hands, but we should see how that's gonna end.
We'll see how it goes. Round 4 of the season already, so moving towards the end of the season, and lots of drivers, especially in the Cup Pro Plus class, super close together, and a big battle between all of them. It's an hour-long race again, as always, in the Porsche Fever series, with a pit stop in it. So we'll see what strategies the drivers think of. Sometimes you have drivers changing tires, not changing tires. So it really depends on the strategy that they pick out. Here's Tauras Tunila once again.
Oh, I think he's giving a shot for his final try, and there's a GT4 car right in front of him before the first corner, before entering the first corner. That's definitely not gonna help Tauras Tunila out in his final attempt to try and snatch the highest starting grid place. I'm not sure how much he lost there, or if he lost anything. He's currently not on his personal attempt in the first sector, so looks like he lost a little bit due to being stuck behind that GT4 car. Matas Mendelis not going faster with his previous attempt, as Tauras Tunila plants 2 wheels on the grass, and basically that's game over for him and for his teammate. Both Dream to Drive cars are back in the pit lane, as Kajoni and Nani, they stay on the racetrack. Is Kajoni? Yep, Kajoni is also on a flying lap. Currently looking not too bad while looking at the graph of these sectors. Not personal best for Kajoni in sector 2, but a couple of green dots or rectangles flashing on the bottom of your screens, meaning that Kajoni might be well close to his limit. But again, lap being broken or disturbed by a slower car, leaving Inani out on the racetrack. At the moment, not going faster than his fastest lap time, and I think there's no need for that. Inani should stay first no matter what. He goes back into the pit lane. Bernini remains on the racetrack. He's currently P6, doing good in the first sector by the looks of it. Is he? Yep, so green for sector 1 for Bernini. He's currently 3.5 tenths off the pace, but has a Dream to Drive car right in front of him. And that should be Grajis, I'd say. Yep, it is Gidius Grajis. He's 12th in the standings, and he's focused on his qualifying attempt. Jan Nemts is back in the pit lane. Gubarev, Sendo, basically all the GT4s are now back in the pit lane, so kind of qualifying session done for the GT4 cars. Oh, and Grajis,
Moves out of the way. I guess he maybe had a mistake somewhere, or could have had a cut penalty as well, so could have been lap deleted for track limits. Just wanted to get out of the way as quickly as possible. Inani at the top of the standings. He takes pole in the Cup Pro class, ahead of Adam Kishoni, Tauras Tunila, and Matas Mendelis. The Pro-Ams led by Vielgo, and the GT4 Pros by Jan Nims, Gubarevs in the GT4 Pro-Ams, and the GT4 Ams led by Dotertas. So those are your pole sitters for each of the 5 classes that we've got here tonight. And overall, it's nice to see the top 8 are all the Cup Pro cars. So a nice battle surely between the Cup Pro class at the top.
Yep, and standing for the name, standing for the license. The Pro Plus drivers are higher ranked drivers on the WorldSimSeries platform, and this afternoon, this evening, they kind of prove the point why they hold such a license. As we prepare ourselves for the 1 hour racing action with one mandatory pit stop as usual. It's gonna be interesting to see the strategy here this afternoon. Didn't hear a lot from the drivers about the nuances of the racetrack. We might have again some split strategies where some drivers go for a stop in the middle of the race to put a fresh set of tires on the car, or we might have other drivers running almost towards the end of the race to finish off the full distance with one set of rubber.
Yep, so many different opportunities as we get ready to get going for round 4 of the Porsche Fever series, and we're off. It's a decent enough start from the front row, but not like in the BMWs where they could close out into turn 1. Nani is coming in side by side on board with Soldukas down in 7th, almost making contact with Bernini up in front. Mendel is going up to P2 now, battling for position against Nani, and Kashoni takes the lead of this one. Nani and Mendel is still side by side. More contact between the cars, and I think that's going to be Mendelis up into the lead as Tunila battling through Butvila up into 3rd now. Oh, Tunila, big jump over the curbs. He's battling Adam Kashoni, so down to 5th for Toros Tunila, and he's under pressure from cars on the inside and the outside for him. Soldukas there as well in that battle as they finally filter out. And Matas Mendel flew off the track. Matas Mendelis leads this one ahead of Nani, ahead of Butvila. Butvila, big gain here in this one. Oh, more contact. That is.
That is Gražiz and Klapikas, two teammates, I think. I think it was Gražiz and Klapikas. Maybe it was Gražiz and Silverio. Didn't catch up with that. Oh, and Gražiz is forced to get back onto the track right in front of all the GT4 cars. Yep, it was Klapikas, the driver whom Gražiz had a contact with. And now looking at the GT4 class, well, at least trying to catch up with the action. Jan Nimts is leading the field only by half a second against Gubarevs. And both of the cars have a slight gap against Nikanen, Dautartas and Marchak, where Yuri Lapo, who seems to have suffered from first lap incidents, is also trying to carve his way through the slower GT4 class field. And this is a big battle again in the GT4 class. I don't think we've ever had that many GT4 drivers here in this championship. Maybe that's gonna be a very interesting race. Remember, you have to hold a M license to be able to participate in the GT4 class, and you have to hold the Pro M class to be able to participate in the Cup class. So usually we have slightly bigger gaps in the GT4 class. Due to the higher difference in the skill of the drivers, but the Cup class, it usually promises and gives us some nice competitive racing action.
Yep, opportunities for good racing as Gražiz moves through the field. Matas Mendelis, fastest lap of the race. He's had the dream start, as did Butvila, still holding P3.
Yep, as you said, they've filtered out now, and looks like they are trying to fall into the racing rhythm, try to understand the positions that they race for, and both IRT cars, Nani and Kashoni, lost at least one place. So Nani lost one place to Mendelis, Kashoni lost 2 places to Mendelis and Butvila, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna try and find a way through the car of Dainus Butvila in front, but he's currently kind of slower by the looks of it. Well, his last lap was 4/10 faster than the lap of the car ahead. But still, Kashoni kind of struggling to gain on Dainus Butvila, who's doing a phenomenal job. Tauras Tunila back in P5 managed to build out a gap between himself and Bernini, and Bernini is kind of forced into the clutches of Frutos, while Saldukas is just holding on to P8 here.
Well, we've seen in the BMW races that it has been extremely difficult to make overtakes. We'll see if that holds on here.
Fastest lap for Chris Inani, but only by 600ths of a second. So Matas Mendel is still doing a decent job leading the field. Matas Mendeles has a slightly heavier car, so 10 kilograms are planted on the car of Chris Hinani and 15 kilograms are bolted on the car of Matas Mendeles. Kajoni has 20 kilograms, Tunila 25, and Kalosai 5 kilograms bolted to the cars. Someone's battling here. That's Bernini and Frutos battling for P6. Good news for Tauras Tunila, he can already focus up in front of him. Not looking at the back, Dainus Butvila off the racetrack. We did miss what happened there. Was there an overtake attempt or just a small mistake by Tauras Tunila, by Dainus Butvila? He's now pushed down behind Frutos. And side by side with Saldukas going through the corners for Dainus Butvila. And that's still tight, still going strong for Dainus Butvila. Again, small contact with Saldukas. Not sure if that was a...
somebody off.
That's Saldukas. It is Saldukas. Yep. I think they had a contact with Dainus Butvila, or Justinas just clipped too much of the curbings on that penultimate corner. I couldn't see that from the distance, but I cannot say. Maybe you could see that on the replay, but either a contact or a jumping over the curbs caused Justinas Saldukas lose a couple of places.
Quickest once again, Mendel is at the front of the field. And, well, unique situation as he was slower in qualifying, now running much quicker. Could be a difference in strategy as well, as Tunila catches up to Kashoni. We'll see if he can make a move somehow. He's obviously got more weight on his Porsche. They've escaped the cars behind, so they're safe in that sense. But, yep, we've seen the difficulty in passing around here. Will it translate to the Porsche Cup cars as well? Maybe more opportunities to get the car, to get others under braking. You have a bigger speed differential when coming into the turn. Tauras Tunila, well, looks pretty hooked up. Looks quicker than Kashoni in front as well, at least in some parts of the circuit.
If they are on a different strategy, and if Tauras Tunila understands that or feels that they are kind of on a different situation here than the IRT guys, Tauras Tunila needs to act fast, because he needs that gap that the fresher tires and the slightly lighter car promises or gives him the ability to do so. But as we've seen less than a week ago on the same track in the BMW race, it was really difficult to make a pass. Not sure if that's going to be the same situation in slightly faster cars and slightly more aerodynamically balanced machines. For that to know, we have to wait a little bit to see if Tauras Tunila will have any chance to take some sort of a action against Adam Kajoni. He's now stuck behind him for at least a second lap in a row, and he's trying to find another lines around the corners, just trying to create himself a perfect exit to maybe have a go on the next corner. Grajis and Yuri Lapo just swapped places. I believe Lapo just made a mistake. Lapo was ahead of Grajis when they were carving their way through the GT4 field. And Looking at the GT4 field, Doutartas still in the lead in the AM class, but he's on the rear bumper of Nikkanen, who is currently third but second in the Pro M category. Back to the GT3 Cup battles, the Cup Pro Plus class, where Tauras Tunila tries to be not only faster than the car ahead, but maybe smarter, though he lost 2/10 on the previous lap, so maybe Kajoni was kind of taking care of his tires, maybe building out himself a strategy for this race. We are now almost...
switch from Tunila as well. Maybe he's thinking of a different strategy then for the rest of the race. If he can see that he can't get close enough and he can't get past, well, then he's got to make himself a bit of a gap and think of what to do with the tires. Maybe he had a... Well, if he had a plan to switch, then there's no real option here because he'll have to refuel, most likely. If he didn't have a plan to switch, well, maybe he'll think of switching tires and then heading to the end of the race. But looks like now Kashoni looking a little bit more comfortable in that car. Mendelis, well, still quickest man out on track. Pretty impressive pace from him, considering where he was in qualifying. I guess, well, maybe didn't practice enough for qualifying pace. He was about almost 2/10 down in qualifying. That's a decent enough margin, as it's now flipped. He's actually running about 2/10 quicker per lap. Except for Adam Kashoni, who's actually running quickest out on track, at least last time round. Butvila as well, picking up the pace, 29.0 from him. So he's in the same pace range as the top four. Looking at it now, he may have actually been able to stay in that zone.
Still not sure what happened to Dainius Butvila, whether he made a mistake on this particular corner by himself, or there was a small miscommunication with Kajoni at that point. I think Kajoni was chasing down Dainius Butvila, so, well, we didn't catch up with it.
I was trying to look at the replay, but couldn't see any.
It looks like it happened pretty fast, and it was a little bit further into the distance. No matter what, race control will take action after the race. All the incidents that have taken or will take place on the racetrack this afternoon, they all will be looked through by the race control. Looking at the gap between Tunila and Kashoni, Tunila 130.6. Don't think they had traffic here, so maybe Tauras Tunila just made a mistake here previously on the last lap. But that's not a very good way to try and finish a little bit higher than the driver is currently at. The heaviest car will not help with his tires. He's not that much heavier than Kajoni or Matas Mendelis, but he's much heavier than the cars that have no weight. So that might still have a small impact on the strategy of Tauras Tunila, and these mistakes will 2.5 seconds, well, maybe 2 seconds lost on the previous lap. It's quite a big chunk of time. He was almost on the tail of Adam Kajoni. He's now behind him more than 2 seconds. Back for...
Looks like maybe just managing pace. Maybe he overcooked the tires as well throughout the first 2 laps. Nani now fastest lap of the race.
128.715. So pace is picking up. Matas Mendeles did a 1:28.89, so Nani was only 1.5 tenths faster than the current leader, so Mendeles still has nothing to worry about. He's currently having a pretty decent
as
race.
well. Pick the pace back up, 28.7 from him. 29.2 from Kashoni, so pace is fluctuating as we look through the GT4 field here. Still in the lead of the pro GT4s is Jan Nims. Yes, and Gubarev's in the lead of the Pro-Ams quite comfortably as well.
Dotartas is having a very decent race here. He is a GT4M driver. He finds himself fourth overall in the GT4 class and first in the M category. And he's roughly 15 seconds ahead of Marchak. Let's check this out. No, he's 8 seconds ahead of his nearest rival. Marchak is currently second in the M class, leading by 1.2 seconds ahead of Leroux, as Kwiatkauskas is fourth in the GT4 M category. And this is a nice tight battle between the GT4 cars, so we should kind of try and memorize the positions for later in the race to try and figure out how the race went for the drivers of these different categories. But I think we can head back over to the battles in the Cup Pro Plus class. Dainius Butvila finally managing to shave off a lot of gap from Frutos, and he's less than 1 second behind his rival now, looking to get back into P6 after that very successful start. Dainius Butvila was running third, and it looked really strong up until that small twitch on the exit of this corner that the drivers have gone through again. Dainius Butvila just keeping in the rhythm, trying to do the best job that he can. And it's nice to see a very similar pace of most of the drivers that creates the most intense racing and the most interesting racing for the drivers themselves. They give it all. They have to be the best version of themselves to try and make a change in this race. And well, basically that's what every driver is coming here for, and it's nice to see these bigger grids here on the WorldSimSeries platform, even though we are approaching the finals of this championship. It's gonna be one round to go after we finish this one off, and it's a really nice battle between Mendeles, Nani, Kashoni and Tunila, in not only in this race but also in the overall standings. I'm pretty sure Toras Tunila would still be leading the championship if he would not have missed the previous race. Well, he couldn't be here now. He has his hands full of work with the heaviest car, so not the best scenario for the driver who was leading the championship. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and well, remember from the first races, up until the first stop, we kind of had different leaders. Like in the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, I think either Kashoni or Nani was leading the race for the most of the time, only to be caught by the different strategy of the Dream to Drive guys, and Toras Tunila managed to get the win of the Spa-Francorchamps race, so you never know what's gonna happen here this afternoon. The strategy might also be split from the drivers, meaning that we might have a different point of view as, well, at least the majority of cars will complete their mandatory pit stops, and well, we are roughly 12 minutes away from the 50-50 strategy by the drivers who decide to go on 2 sets of tires. They usually stop in the middle of the race, meaning that the lifespan of their tires is kind of going off. But looking at the pace of the drivers, at least in the Cup Pro Plus class, I wouldn't separate any of the drivers who could clearly be on a different strategy, and by the looks of the pace at this moment, I'd say everyone is on a very similar strategy, or maybe even on same strategy.
It's sometimes it's very difficult to tell because the pace. Sometimes you might actually see somebody going very fast, and they might not need to change tires if they have a setup that works well. Could be the case sometimes. So we'll see what decisions are made. But Mendelis looks comfortable in the lead. And, well, actually, the gap that they've made to Kashoni and Tanila behind is pretty huge.
Yep, it is, but looking at the lap times, well, now Kajoni was 9 tenths slower than Christinani, but after 14 laps, well, maybe that is the case. So he's 5 seconds behind Nani, so that's still not too dramatic.
I do wonder how big the gaps, how big the holdup is. If Toras Danila is being held up here, is he being held up by a lot?
You mean
interesting to see. Is he being held up in terms of running behind Kashoni if he can't get any closer just because of the aero wash? Could this be a chance to either under or overcut? Looking at where he'd rejoin now, he'd be somewhere in, well, maybe even behind the GT4, or at least somewhere in it. So if he were to, if any of them were to pit now, they'd be really in big traffic here. Approaching some of the GT4s. Could be a chance to bail out if any of, well, I guess for Tunila and Nani, it's an opportunity to either under or overcut. Question is, how much would a new tire help right now?
I wouldn't say it would help a lot, because the drivers are still, well, they are 22 minutes into the race, so the tires are definitely not off the first life. But I don't think we have a huge difference of tire performance here on these Porsche Cup cars than what we do, for example, in Formula 1 racing. As a fresh set of tires gives plenty of juice, but well, we still have to wait and figure this out. As Toras Tonila, he's stuck behind the traffic and actually not avoiding small contacts. These GT4s don't have the best traction out of the corners. Toras Tonila was a little bit too much of a in a rush here. By the way, the tire wear is 200%, so it means that they wear 2 times faster than they normally would, and they are much more damageable for lockups or spins or harsh driving. So the drivers have to be really precise with the inputs that they make here on the racetrack to try and preserve the life of the rubber for as long as possible, especially if they are on a one-stopper. So you have to really be make the moves wise to try and figure out what strategy you're on now.
Well, yeah, making a decision where you want to go. I guess for Tunila and Nani, the better option here is probably going longer if they can.
Yep, and Butvela is the first one of the Pro Plus class to make a pit stop, as Christinani is still a couple of seconds behind of Matas Mendelis, so that's not too big of a gap. Still, between the two leaders, it was 2.3 when they crossed the line the last time. It's a little bit closer now, so maybe Matas Mendelis lost a little bit of time due to the traffic. We can see some GT4 cars in the background. That's Kashoni overtaken now. Saldukas receiving a drive-through penalty for cutting the track, so he was off the racetrack for a little bit more than a couple of occasions, and he will be forced to go through the pit lane. He was behind Dainius Butvila, the driver who is first and was first into the pit lane as Tauras Tunila goes straight after Dainius Butvila has made a visit to the pit lane. So maybe this is the answer. So it looks like Kashoni was holding on Tauras Tunila.
Well,
And
Kashoni now needs to respond. He needs to get a good lap in and immediately. He needs to respond from the threat coming from behind. Tauras Tunila on a new set of tires. Well, he's going to be... he was pressuring Kashoni right in the beginning. And it looks like if you can get in front, you can stay in front. So this is, well, an opportunity for Tunila, who goes back out onto the track. Let's see what can Kashoni do here. Tunila, he's got about 3 seconds of open track ahead. And if the drivers in front pit as well, that might just work out for him. He's got a few GT4 cars in front, but that's not an issue. The question is, what will happen once he gets up to the back of Grajis in front? 3 seconds, that gap now. We'll see how it changes throughout this race as leaders coming through the pit lane.
my guess is they will not have, Tauras will not have plenty of issues because the next car in front of Tauras Tunila is painted the same colors. So both of the drivers are representing the same team, so I'm pretty sure that Grajis understands his situation. He's not in the battle for the win, so I think that's gonna be an easy pass for Tauras Tunila as soon as he catches up with Egidius Grajis, if Egidius will not go into the pit lane. I think it's still a little bit too soon. We've seen those sooner stops by Butvila and also by Tauras Tunila. I'm pretty sure because of both of the drivers being stuck behind their rivals, as Adam Kashoni is still staying on the racetrack.
Yep, he didn't respond to this. Oh, not going well, and now he's definitely put himself at risk here by staying out a lap longer. Doesn't look like that car's super responsive, but even if you're losing tire, I mean, even if you expect to lose tire grip by the end of the race, it's clear that overtaking is so difficult around here that, I mean, really, you can just hold on. Look at that rear end moving around on his 992 Cup car. We'll see if he takes the plunge this time. Into the pit goes Mendelis.
Wow, so maybe we do have a split strategy. That's why both of the Dream to Drive car leaders are so much, well, slightly faster at least than the IRT guys. Both of the IRT cars stay on the racetrack. And Chrissy Nani takes over the lead now back from Matas Mendelis. Well, Nani was never in the lead actually. He was in the lead just right after the start, but Matas Mendelis managed to use the situation to his own advantage and take the lead in after a couple of corners in the first lap.
Mendelis now has to do the exact opposite. Now he has to, Nani now has to do the opposite. He now has to go long and keep going. That's his option here. Mendelis 11 seconds ahead of Tunila.
Yep, he was I think a very similar gap before Mendelis going into before Tunila went into the pit lane. I think it was roughly around 14 seconds maybe, if my memory is not playing games with me.
Okay, so about a 40-second loss.
Nani. Oh, Kashoni. No, it's
Nani. No,
that's Nani. Yep. So
comes into the pit. I mean, did he run out of fuel?
Maybe, I don't know. Every driver has a strategy for them for themselves.
I mean,
And
I can only explain it by that because he's given up the position. He's not gonna take it now.
he'll have only one lap fresher tires, so
Yep.
there's
So
also
he'll
not a
not
big
have a
advantage.
tire delta. And he didn't really try anything. He didn't really have a chance to get forward.
And he lost quite a lot. Remember, Grissinani was 1.5 seconds, well, 2 seconds behind Matas Mendeles as they swapped places. Maybe it is a smart strategy from Matas Mendeles, but maybe from both Dream to Drive cars. Look at Toros Danila, he's only 4 seconds now behind Grissinani, so maybe this is a slightly smarter strategy from the Dream to Drive guys, at least trying to be a smarter strategy to to go into the pit lane and put in some fuel but stay on the same tires.
I'm just looking at what we had right before the pit stop. Tunila was about 6. He's actually losing maybe more time. Trying to look through what we have. So Tunila was 8 behind Nani, 11 behind Mendeles. He closed up to 4. I think that's the undercut here working. I think he got that fresh set of tires. Couldn't get Nani, but I think Kashoni's position is done here. He didn't respond, and I feel like IRT have done the opposite strategy here. I think maybe Mendeles didn't change something, tires or a couple of tires, but yeah, a very strange situation. Strange to me that Nani went into the pits right after.
Yeah, well, in the AC original, you cannot change only 1 or 2 tires. You're forced to change all 4 tires. So that cannot also be the case. So they either change the tires or they do not change them at all. And I'm trying to figure out if there's a need to stay on the same tires but still put in fuel into the car. How many seconds can you save by going on such strategy, like having a lighter car for the whole distance of the race, but still going on the same tires? Is there?
No, that makes no sense.
Maybe you save a couple of seconds in the pit stop, but I think if refueling
if
takes longer than
refueling. Should take. Normally, you calculate it so it takes the same as the tires.
Yep. So
there's no point to stand and fuel the car. You're just losing time the whole way through.
Yeah, but it looks like somehow the Dream to Drive drivers managed to put in faster pit stops. Well, at least faster.
Tunila gained 4 seconds, which I can see happening, that he ran longer on a new set of tires. Let's see where Kashoni rejoins from this, but is he
I think he's moving. I think he's moving already. Yep, and he's gonna be in front of Toros Tunila, right behind of Grissinani. So maybe Grissinani had a little bit of a damage that he needed to fix. Where did Toros Tunila lose all the time suddenly in the battle with Kashoni? Well, he's actually 2.5 seconds behind Kashoni, so the undercut did not work at all for Toros Tunila. So there has to be a different case here for these slightly different gaps, and looks like Matas Mendeles has gained the most amount of time, or maybe Grissinani has lost the biggest amount of time with the pit stops, because he has Kashoni 2 seconds behind and Tunila 4 seconds behind him now. I think that's Grissinani who lost the biggest amount of time in the pit lane, and maybe he had some sort of a damage which needed to be taken care of during the pit stops. That's why he stood there a little bit longer. Maybe that's why he didn't have pace. Well, he had pace actually in the first part of the race. So it's really difficult to understand here what's happening with the minimum amount of data that we receive. But it's definitely quite interesting to look at the race on the screen. So look, Silverio, IRT team driver, he's now up to 4th, and Toros Tonila, will he get blocked by Silverio, because, well, he's the main chaser from Khashoggi and Nani. So this is a nice bumper or a buffer between Khashoggi and Tonila for both the IRT drivers.
Well, there's something definitely that happened in the pits, because Tonila had gained time in terms of the gap to Khashoggi. I just looked back on it, so he didn't gain time after he exited the pits, and he was gaining about a second a lap at one point. So seeing this, it does look like a pretty strange sight out on track.
By the way, Matas Mendel is retaking the lead of this race by overtaking Vielgo. I'm not sure if Vielgo maybe made a mistake, because Matas Mendelis is already far into the distance. He's still a little bit less than 8 seconds in front of Nani. But at this stage of the race, after having the pit stop completed, having 7.5 seconds advantage against your nearest rival, and knowing Matas Mendelis, I think he's singing songs now in front of his 3-monitor system. He can find himself quite calm and relaxed now, just being forced to deal with the traffic, but no pressure from behind. No Nani or Khashoggi breathing onto his neck. Matas Mendelis started 4th, I believe. Matas Mendelis started 4th behind Toros Tonila, and he's now 3rd in the race, and looking the strongest car on this grid.
First, he's not 3rd, he's 1st.
He's 1st, yeah, sorry for my bad English. He is definitely 1st, not 3rd. As Toros Tonila now smelling the buffer or the bumper of Miguel Silverio car, and Toros Tonila knows that Silverio is on old tires, and he'll be trying to find his way through as fast as possible.
Gives him space, interestingly.
Yeah,
I didn't really expect that. I didn't expect that. If I was in Silverio's shoes, Toros Tonila would definitely still be behind.
Yeah, but this is nice racing action. You can feel how great the drivers are here, and participating in a race like this, fully packed of cars, having your teammates battling for podium places, still showing plenty of respect for the rival drivers. I actually kind of feel also respect back for drivers like these. They understand the situation completely. No team orders, most likely. This is not Formula 1. So I definitely enjoy seeing drivers being respectful to others rather than creating dangerous situations. Toros Tonila still lost a little bit of time here in this traffic, and while he had to make those moves, and he's currently 5th, but only virtually, because Vielgo is staying on the track for a very long time. By the way, Vielgo is a driver who is driving on his home circuit because he's from Poland. Karol Vielgo finding himself 2nd and enjoying the race for as long as he can, because Chrissy Nani is already beginning to breathe into his neck. And that shouldn't take too long. We've seen Matas Mendelis doing that overtake really fast, but look at the gap at this stage. Nani is slightly faster than Matas Mendelis, still 22 minutes being on the way, driving a little bit slower just to preserve those tires, or it's Chrissy Nani who's giving a great push. Looking at the lap times, I don't see the... Oh, and the Rizzi contact between... Wow, it was maybe unnecessary. It was not a big contact, still a little bit of scrubbing. So looking at the lap times, look at the lap times. Is this the traffic, or that's strange, because the drivers, well, if they pitted in the middle of the race, they definitely had to go for a new rubber, but the fastest lap time in the race so far is 1 minute 28.7, and Chrissy Nani is the only driver to find himself close to the fastest lap time that he has previously set, but still being 5/10 off the pace at this moment.
I mean, Mendelis doesn't need to take any risks here. But I still don't understand how he's that far ahead.
Magic by Matas Mendelis. Maybe he has a slightly more relaxed pit crew. I don't know. We might ask the drivers after the race. Maybe they will have some sort of an explanation.
I mean, we'll see if he starts dropping crazy pace at the end of the race, then it will make sense. But he's, well, about 12 seconds ahead of Toras Tunila, which was kind of the gap coming in. So somewhere, Nani has lost a lot of time.
Back to the GT4 field, where we've expected for some close battles here in this class. Looks like the hottest part on the racetrack is the battle for P3. It is in the GT4 M class. That's Marchak and Kwiatkauskas. Being a little bit less than 2 seconds away from each other, and LaRue is actually quite close. Someone's off the racetrack. I think it was one of the Cup cars. It was one of the Cup cars. Looks like, doesn't it look like an IRT car? I think it was Silverio. No. This is the exit of turn 1, so maybe it was Silverio off the racetrack. I think it was Silverio off the racetrack. He's now behind Tunila and Bernini. Well, Tunila has... He was behind, yep.
20 seconds behind now, so...
Yep, I think it was Silverio off the racetrack. Anyways, back for the battles, for the most exciting battles in this race. Cajoni managed to overtake Vielgo. Now Tunila is next, and Tunila definitely not gonna try and wait for too long. Remember, Tunila owns the heaviest car on the grid, so he has the most difficult job here from all of the drivers, as Vielgo looks to be running for the long distance and tries to finish this race on one set of tires. He's doing pretty good so far, but he'll lose quite a lot of places. Well, I don't know if that's going to be quite a lot of places. Actually, Vielgo will lose a position to Bernini, but that should kind of be it then, because his pit stop will be very, very short. So it's gonna all depend on the pace that Vielgo will be able to extract from his car. And looking at the qualifying session results, Vielgo qualified 9th, so he started this race in P9. He's currently 5th, and he's looking at a P6 finish. So maybe he will have a point here to prove if he manages to get that car back up until the finish line in P6 on one set of tires. Maybe that's gonna be a nice answer. Chris Inani and Adam Cashoni. 3.5 seconds. Okay, I kind of miscalculated the gaps. It's actually less than a second between Cashoni and Tunila here. So a nice battle building up in front of our eyes for P3. And, well, Cashoni has fresher tires by how many laps? I think 4 or 5?
Yeah, a couple of laps over Tunila, but that won't make a huge difference. Nani, fastest lap of the race. He's turned the heat up, but Mendelis still lapping in the low 29s. That's more than enough for him to win this race.
Silverio
we'll
just...
see if Tunila can come back at Cashoni. We obviously remember he couldn't get close enough to overtake in the first stint. And he dropped back, then obviously tried to undercut, but that didn't pan out as he wanted it to. Battle for P8 here. It's Silverio v Utvila, but
That's actually Silverio losing 2 places in the course of a couple of corners. Maybe he also made another mistake. I think he has yet to make a pit stop here, so
I believe so. Yep. So Woodvilla was the earliest stopper of that front bunch.
Oh, that's Galapagos almost running into the back of Silverio's car, so Silverio struggling quite badly here on all tires, as we assume here. And Galapagos, well, kind of almost impatiently waiting for the right moment to make that pass and almost running into the back of Silverio car. That's dangerous, but it's still no contacts here. And let's ride on board with Hendrikas Galapagos as he will try to find a tiniest gap on the racetrack to make that move stick. He can feel how fresher tire he owns now on his Porsche Cup car. And this is a battle between the Pro-Am and Pro Plus car. Is there someone off the racetrack? A lot of dust here has been kicked into the air. I'm not sure if it was a GT4 car or a Cup car. Everyone still holding to their positions. We head back to the battle between Toros Tonila and Adam Cajoni. Chris Inani is already 5 seconds ahead of Toros Tonila, so Toros Tonila struggling again. Well, he tried to undercut Adam Cajoni, didn't work out, and he's stuck again here behind his rival as Matas Mendelis and Chris Inani both disappear into the distance. And look at the last laps of Matas Mendelis and Chris Inani. Do you see a difference in the lap times?
Running identical, those two.
Oh yeah, okay, it already changed because Matas Mendelis has crossed the lines, but it's nice to see both of the leaders putting in identical lap times. This time Nani was slightly faster, as Toros Tonila was slightly slower than Adam Cajoni, and I think the Dirty Air is playing the bad part here for the driver behind, who has similar or maybe slightly better pace than the car ahead, but he is unable to extract it from the car because, well, running in Dirty Air you don't have enough of front grip, and that's what you want in cars like these. And if you kind of need to play with your brake pedal a little bit more while running behind your rival, it slows you definitely down, at least by a bit. And
I mean, now Tonila has to do everything to stay close and find the gap through traffic. I think that's the only real opportunity here. Oh, and one of those GT4s is almost stopping on the exit, losing time for Tonila. 1 second that gap. He needs to put it at about 4/10, or at least half a second, to have any real chance of making a move in traffic. He'll have to have some luck, that's for sure, but needs to find that opportunity, because right now, in big trouble.
yeah, and time is running out. Only 13 minutes on the clock. It has been roughly 20 minutes for Toros Tonila as he has came back or returned to the racetrack after his mandatory pit stop. And he spent all the time in this race running behind Cajoni, trying to chase him down and overtake. And I don't know, he needs to find motivation, he needs to find that extra pace, those couple of tenths per lap.
Run.
Ooh, and he's doing close overtakes just to lose as less time as possible while running on a compromised line here, taking a little bit too much of a curb. You see how the Cups ride on 2 wheels on the circuit. And when the curves have been hit a little bit too hard, as Bernini overtakes Vielgo now, and Vielgo finds himself P6. He will still have to go into the pit lane for that splash and dash type of a pit stop. He's 18 seconds in front of Frutos now, so maybe that's not going to be the easiest part for him. Who's flashing here for Toros Tonila?
I don't think he's got anybody behind.
What's happening here?
A graphical glitch.
Maybe Toros Tonila is just having a nice little party here on the track of in Poland. has some stroboscopes planted in his cockpit just to have some fun if he gets bored. And at this moment he's losing just a tiny bit in this battle with Adam Kajoni. It looks like he has the pace advantage, but he's unable to extract it. And that's looking really, really difficult now from the perspective of the Lithuanian driver who was in the lead of this championship, and he was the favorite driver to take that home. It's not the case anymore. He missed one race a couple of weeks ago, and that basically eliminated the chances of Tauras Tunila of becoming a champion here, and he's now stuck in P4 on the penultimate race of this championship. You can almost feel the frustration from the driver. It's not working out as he has hoped for. But still not over. Still a little bit more than 10 minutes on the clock. His pace is still reasonable. He's slower than Nani and Mendelis. But as usual, you know, things happen here in these races, even on the final laps. So, Karnatka going into the pit lane. So, yeah, still everything up ahead of Tauras Tunila. He just doesn't need to lose hope here and do the best that he can. Going through the field of the GT4 cars again. Still a tight gap between Kwietkauskas, Marchak, Lenarchik and Leroux now. A 4-car train here. Can you call it a train? Maybe. I think is that Marchak being caught out by a GT3 Cup car. It is. So Marchak lost a little bit here and leaving him vulnerable to Lenarchik and Leroux.
That is, well, breaking himself, Leroux. This isn't for position against Lenarchik. It is for position against Marchak, though. And, well, not driving like that, you won't get any positions, that's for sure. Quite a few mistakes coming through.
One GT4 is off the racetrack, just standing still. They're not doing anything. Maybe taking a rest. Maybe it was just the camera at the moment that we've got the GT4 standing.
Maybe had enough.
Yeah. Yeah, the driver just decided to take a small break. Still plenty of time on the clock. You can take a rest and then get back into the action. Doesn't look good, too good now for Tauras Tunila, does it? It's the third or fourth lap in a row where Tauras Tunila is just a tiny bit slower than Adam Kajoni. This time he was faster, but only by 0.005 of a second. As Dainus Butvila back into P8. Will he have a chance to overtake Vielgo? This is a battle shaping up. I think Vielgo made a pit stop. Either he made a pit stop or made a mistake, but Vielgo is now right in front of Frutos in the battle for P6. Remember, Vielgo started 9. He's now 6th due to the different strategy from all of the grid, and he's on all tires. If he just made a pit stop, I don't think he's going to hold on to that position because Frutos is now right on his tail, and Dainus Butvila is also coming here in the background. He's going to be hesitant to take that place. Dainus Butvila with a very phenomenal start here, made a mistake or was spun around, lost a couple of places and now kind of doing a job in the lower top 10 places. Still chasing down higher positions as Saldukas overtakes Silverio, who pits very late in this race, and it doesn't look to work out for Silverio with this different kind of strategy. Does look a little bit better for Vielgo now.
Well, Silverio did have that big time loss, so it kind of makes sense that it
Vielgo sideways.
Yep, sideways under pressure from Frutos behind. And Butvila close as well. Klepikas close as well. Klepikas, well, leads Pro-Am. Well, second in Pro-Am, chasing Vielgo.
Now Frutos showing his drift style driving skills. as that is good news for Dainius Butvila if he'll manage to calm himself down. Frutos definitely on a high pace note here, missing all the apexes that he can miss, especially into the final corner. You don't want to miss an apex like that where you attend a mid speed corner. Turn one, a very long...
This car looks very, very difficult and not nice to drive. Losing the rear constantly, really.
Ooh, braking so late!
Very, very late to try a move like that.
And straight away plays that stroboscope music in his cockpit. I think that might have been Dainius Butvila.
No, I think that's when he is flashing the light. It also flashes up in the cockpit.
Okay, so nice graphical interface here for the drivers. To
Maybe
not get warned.
Up for us as the spectators. I hope it doesn't happen in the car.
Nice little
He's getting
body.
closer and closer. He's super close now.
Yeah, but look at Dainius Butvila. He's also close here in this battle, and Dainius Butvila will not hesitate any moment. If he sees the door opening, he definitely go for a move. And this is the best chance for Dainius Butvila to get back into P6. That would be a very nice result for Dainius Butvila, who qualified 5th. So still would be a driver who lost a position in this race after qualifying position. But first he needs to make that move done, and I think that's Vielgo off.
There was contact with Frutos, not really off. Wow. Looked like he braked down the straight almost. The way that car slowed down to the inside. That's the GT4 leader, Jan Nims, sideways. Touches Jan Nims. And this is now an opportunity for Klepikas behind to get positions as well.
And he got the position from Dainius Butvila, so Dainius Butvila down in P9. Side by side goes Butvila and Klepikas, but the inside corner belongs to Klepikas. What's happening here with the traffic?
He just I think he expected Klepikas to give him space. He didn't, and rightfully so. He doesn't need to give him space there. I mean, to overtake the GT4, and Butvila just ran right into that GT4 car. So didn't expect that.
Oh, and again another bump.
Back of Klepikas this time. So more and more contact.
Field goes crazy here. 4 minutes until the finish line. Give us more action, drivers. It's really nice to see this actually 1.5 seconds ahead of Vielgo, and both Klepikas and Butvila are stuck behind the driver on old tires, and they are stuck behind the GT4 traffic.
More contact.
Oh, and Butvila finds himself... Butvila always finds himself running behind GT4s. Now Butvila, he managed somehow to overtake Klepikas. What's happening with Vielgo? He was so slow into the final corner. Butvila didn't expect him to slow that much down. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe Vielgo had a slowdown or something, but it was definitely a huge slowdown by Vielgo. And somehow Butvila managed to get back in front of Klepikas. Both of the drivers now
takes the lead now in the Cup Pro Am class.
Oh, what's happening here? And Klepikas still right on the tail of Dainius Butvila, trying to go around the outside on the exit of the second corner. It doesn't work out. Butvila needs to calm himself down and find back the rhythm. He was right on the tail of Frutos before they gained on all this traffic situation. They had to party down down the corners in the middle of the lap, and they continue their battle. 2.5 minutes on the clock, so that should be, what should that be? Matas Mendelis crossed the line, so that's the penultimate lap of the race that Matas Mendelis has started. So that's gonna be 2 laps to go for Butvila and Klepikas as soon as they will cross the line. What about Tunila? He's still within that 1 second range between himself and Kashoni. These two don't give up, and actually Toros Tunila was even closer on the previous lap. Look, he was half a second slower than Kashoni on the previous lap. So while we were looking at the battles for the lower places, I think we've missed some action here from the battle for P3.
Well, talking about that battle, by the way, for 6th overall, Butvila and Klepikas, he doesn't need to they don't really need to fight because they're in different categories, so it won't make a difference either way.
But where's the fun? Where's the fun? You are in a race, so you need to battle. You know, the drivers, they want to finish ahead no
I mean,
matter what.
there's no difference in the points you get, so there's no point in taking that risk there, I think.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true. But we've already seen that the drivers don't care about that, and they just try to prove a point there that an M driver can be faster than a Pro Plus driver. Well, at least Klepikas tried something, and he's still 4 tenths behind Butvila as we start the final lap of this race. I don't think Toros Tunila will overtake Kashoni, as he's slow again on the second occasion behind Kashoni, so maybe Tunila ran out of tires. Remember, he was one of the earliest stoppers here in the race, so maybe this is now what's happening for Toros Tunila.
Yeah, but not really going to make a difference. I mean, he had no real opportunity to overtake at any point except the first few laps, so it was good that he tried. It was a good shot, took a good shot at it, but yeah, unfortunately, nothing really changed for him. And that top four, well, as we started, it stayed there. Jan Nims, well, still leads in GT4 Pro. Well, leads overall in GT4. He's alone in the GT4 Pro class. But leads there as the timer finally runs out. And Matas Menderes will come round the final turn to take a pretty dominant victory, considering he came from 4th on the grid. Matas Menderes wins round number 4 ahead of Nani. And then will come Kashoni and Tunila, your top 4. Menderes, that was one hell of a race from him. So congratulations to him for that really, really incredible drive. And Jan Nims will be the GT4 winner here tonight, as he's been, well, pretty much all the way throughout the season.
Yeah, dominant
Gubarev's
performance.
at the top of the Pro-Am class. Kwiatkowski's, I think, will be at the top of the Am class.
Yeah, the timing got crazy, actually. The timing sheet, I don't actually understand the positions anymore. Anyways, it was definitely a really, really interesting race here this afternoon, this evening. I did enjoy the huge field on the racetrack, as we can basically switch over to the results section to maybe go through the results again.
Cars that haven't taken the checkered flag. Looking through it myself, so just waiting for a final few cars to cross the line so we can actually get the proper results as everything updates. Have one more car out on track that needs to take the checkered flag. And now we can have a look through the results. Menderes wins ahead of Nani, Kashoni, Tunila, and Bernini in 5th in the Cup Pro Plus. Cup Pro Am won by Klepikas ahead of Vielgo, and Grajis 3rd in that category. Then the GT4 Pros, Jan Nims takes the win in GT4 overall in that. Gubarevs takes the win in the Pro-Am GT4 class ahead of Nikanen and Lenarchik. And GT4 Am won by Dotertes ahead of Kwiatkauskas and Marchak. Those are your leaders in the classes. In 2 weeks' time, we're heading on over to the Brno circuit in Czechia to crown the champions of the Porsche Fever series. It's a pleasure covering this one with you tonight, Lurinas.
Oh yeah, it was
everyone.
Backwards, and yeah, have a good evening, and see you next week for the final round of the EBA-TCC Championship. More drama ahead of us, and let's wait patiently for it. Have a good one, and see you then.